Hi everyone, welcome to the recap of lesson 12. In this lesson, we mostly talked about woordvolgorde, which is word order or syntax in Dutch. This topic is quite difficult. The word order in Dutch is a bit convoluted and not as strict or straightforward as it is in English, unfortunately. But with a bit of guidance, I think it will make a lot more sense. The difficult part of Dutch word order is that it changes a lot depending on the order of the clauses. And this is where it differs a lot from English, because in English it doesn't change that much. But don't worry, we'll get through it. And I hope that in the end it will make a bit more sense to you. So first, word order. For a more in-depth explanation of this, I would highly recommend you follow this link here on dutchgrammar.com, and they explain in a lot of detail the word order. Now, this graph might look a bit scary, but I will simplify it a bit. Well, I won't actually do that, but I will treat a simplified version of this graph, and then we will get through it. So the basic word order in Dutch is what I would call subject, verb, object. First the subject, then the verb, then the object. So an easy sentence would be: Ik eet een wortel. I eat a carrot. That is a very simple Dutch sentence. So the subject is I, ik. The verb is eet, and the object is een wortel. Yes. So as you see in this diagram, we first start with a finite formation. So there's a subject and a verb usually. And the verb here is the conjugated verb. Every proper sentence in Dutch is a conjugated verb. But there can be other verbs in a sentence. The other verbs, as you can see here at the end, are go at the end. All other verbs go at the end, basically. So the things that we need to worry about here are the finite formation, the reflexive pronoun, don't worry about it yet, the indirect reduced object, also not really, and the other objects, also not. What is interesting, or we'll talk about mostly here, is the middle part, the adverbs. So the time, manner, and place adverbs. The hier, daar is also interesting, but we'll get to that in lesson 15. But the time, manner, place adverbs are interesting because these differ quite a lot from English. In English, you always put the time adverb at the start or at the end of the sentence. So you say, yesterday I went to the bar. You won't say, I went yesterday to the bar, or but you can say, I went to the bar yesterday. So that is already a big difference. Furthermore, the manner and the place are sometimes interchangeable, but we will get to that in a bit. I will go there. So for you, this should be just at one. Yeah. So adverbs usually come after the finite verb, the persoonsvorm. Ik heb lekker gegeten. I have nicely eaten, literally. Hij reist vaak door Afrika. He travels often through Africa. So here we have two adverbs actually, often and through Africa. And this is not the case, however, for question sentences. So technically what happens is that the adverbs go after, as you saw in the graph, the finite formation, which is just the verb and the subject, and those can change places depending on the form of the sentence, namely question. But we'll get to that in a bit. So here, waar ging hij gisteren heen? Where did he go yesterday? Where did he yesterday go, literally? Or where went he yesterday towards, in a very literal sense. And you see that it is often, so it's the adverbs come after the finite formation, almost always. But not always. They can also be placed at the start of the sentence. And if you do that, the sentence structure changes. So normally you would say, it rained yesterday. Het regende gisteren. But if you want to put more emphasis on the specific adverb, you can put it at the front of the sentence. So you can say, gisteren regende het. If someone asks you, what was the weather like yesterday? You would say, gisteren regende het. Or what was the weather like this week? Gisteren regende het. Eergisteren was het zonnig. En woensdag was het mistig. So if you want to make emphasis on the specific day or manner or place, you can put it at the front. Here's another example. Snel liep hij van de trap. Instead of hij liep snel van de trap, which would be the normal order. In hij, subject, liep, verb, snel, manner, van de trap, place. Snel liep hij, but if you do it like this, it becomes snel liep hij van de trap. The order of the verb and the subject reverses. And we will see this more often. Yes. These order of the adverbs also changes in, can also change in the middle of the sentence. So here, ik heb gisteren veel in Tiel gefietst. Then the emphasis is on in Tiel. If you change it to, ik heb gisteren in Tiel veel gefietst, then the emphasis is on veel. Here it kind of is how the closer it is to the relevant verb. Here, gefietst. You can change the order a bit. If the sentence does not have another verb, but it was just a present simple, ik fiets, or ik fietste gisteren veel in Tiel would be correct, but ik fietste gisteren in Tiel veel would not be correct. You can only do this inversion or changing if there's another verb in the sentence. And furthermore, this changing is only between the manner and place adverb, but not really with the time adverb. So gisteren really always stays at its place. So this is indeed the most common order, time, manner, place. Hij gaat morgen graag naar het feestje in Den Haag. So Theo goes tomorrow happily to the party in The Hague. So that is the, naar het feestje in Den Haag should be underlined. So the whole thing, that is the place, tomorrow is the time, and the manner is happily. Yes. So now, that is the basic sentence structure. I do not have a good slide for this. But what is important is that the basic sentence structure usually stays the same. So finite formation, time, manner, place, then usually the object, and then the other verbs. An example, ik at gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel. So, I ate yesterday happily or with a lot of pleasure in my room a carrot. That would be the literal sentence construction in Dutch. What can change is the order of the verbs and sometimes the object. That makes it so confusing. A basic example is a question. So if you have a question, this is a very basic question. Ik eet een wortel, I eat a carrot. If you invert the question, the subject and the verb, then you make a question. So, ik eet een wortel, just a statement. Eet ik een wortel? Do I eat a carrot? In Dutch, we do not need an extra verb. In English, often you need two verbs for a question. In Dutch, that's never the case. You can just use one. Eet ik een wortel? Eat I a carrot? Literally. So the verb and the subject get inversed. And this can... So with the sentence, that always happens. So the longer expression that I said, ik at gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel. The question would be, at ik gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel? So there the object stays at the same place. The trouble comes when we try to combine sentences or clauses. In English, this also happens. So you can say, I ate a carrot and I ate a potato. Though here we have a conjunction, namely and. It conjoins two main clauses. Both clauses have just as much weight. However, in English, there is no... in Dutch, if you conjoin two main clauses with a nevenschikkend voegwoord, coordinating conjunction, the sentence order just stays the same. You just slap them together. Zij kookt spaghetti, want ze houdt van pasta. She cooks spaghetti because she loves pasta. Het is droog buiten, dus we gaan wandelen. It is dry outside, so we are going for a walk. Maybe don't do that now, as a we, or keep 1.5 meter distance if you do that. These conjunctions are easy because they don't change the word order. And there are not a lot of them. These are all of them. Want, en, dus, maar, and of. So, and these mean respectively because, and, so, but, and or. Dan is sometimes also used as a conjunction, meaning than, with an A. But not very often. It's a bit of a weird one. So these are all the coordinated conjunctions. And important to know is that the coordinated conjunction cannot be at the start of a sentence. And that is all you need to know about coordinated conjunctions. The trouble comes from subordinating conjunctions, onderschikkende voegwoorden. These connect a main clause with a subclause. This also happens in English. For example, I ate a carrot before I recorded this lecture. That's not true, but it's an example. And in English, this does not change the sentence order. So I ate a carrot, subject, verb, object, before I recorded the lecture. Subject, verb, object. Very easy. In Dutch, however, this is not the case. Very sad. Oh, I know. But if you have a coordinated conjunction, like omdat, meaning because, and voordat, meaning before, you get subject, object, verb. So this is also a different sentence order than the question even. So you don't say het kind moet huilen omdat zijn broertje sloeg hem. The child had to cry because his brother hit him. No, you say het kind moet huilen omdat zijn broertje hem sloeg. The child has to cry because his brother him hit. That's what you would say in Dutch. Je moet je inschrijven voordat het te laat is correct. What's not correct is, je moet je inschrijven voordat het is te laat. Translated, literally the bottom one is, you have to enroll yourself before it is too late. That is in English correct. In Dutch it is not. You would say, you have to enroll yourself before it too late is. So the object comes before the verb. What this means in terms of a diagram I showed you earlier is that the verb, the finite verb, joins the other verbs all the way at the end. So again, let's reconsider the example sentence I constructed earlier. Ik at gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel. let's make that a subordinate clause. Subordinate clause. Say, I was happy because I ate a carrot in my room yesterday. In Dutch that would be, ik was blij, subject, verb, adverb, omdat ik gisteren in mijn kamer, gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel at. So it is the verb that moves to the back of the room to the other verbs. That is kind of what happens. Not per se that the object moves in the front of the verb, but that the verbs move to the back, because the adverbs kind of stay in the same place, namely after the finite formation, before the object. Now, that is what happens when you have main clause, subordinate clause. However, in Dutch you can also have subordinate clause, main clause. Then things get very difficult. Because a subordinated conjunction can be in the front of us at the start of a sentence, unlike coordinated conjunctions, mind you. So you can't start a sentence with and in English, and you can't start a sentence with and in Dutch, practically, like theoretically, but in practice people do that. It doesn't really matter. But if you start a sentence with a coordinated conjunction at the start, if you start a sentence with a coordinated conjunction, just basically, then this sentence order becomes very tricky. Here the example is, omdat hij dat wil, geven we hem een fles whisky. I will translate this literally in English. Because he that wants, give we him a bottle of whiskey. So the order is subject, object, verb, verb, subject, object. Oof. Very strange, right? To make this again of our example sentence, omdat ik gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel at, was ik blij. Of omdat ik gisteren met veel plezier in mijn kamer een wortel at, heb ik geen wortels. Heb ik op dit moment geen wortels, for example. Yes, so that's a lot to take in. And hopefully this diagram makes it a bit more sensible, but this is something you really have to practice. And I would also recommend going to the Dutch grammar website. They explain this in a lot of detail. But basically, the adverbs stay at the same place. Usually, it is the subject, verb, and object. The object also usually stays at the same place, mind you. It is the subject and the verb that do sometimes a little bit of a switcheroo. So either the verb, the normal order is so subject, verb, object, subject, verb, adverbs, object, or subject, adverbs, verb. No, subject, verb, adverbs. I'm very sorry. Object. And so sometimes, for example, in questions, the verb jumps in front of the subject. Or here at the second part of the coordinating clause sentence, again, this subject jumps in front of the verb jumps in front of the subject. And the other case is that the verb goes all the way back to join the other verbs in the corner where they belong. And that is the case if you start a sentence with a coordinating clause or just sentences with coordinating clauses in them. And there are quite a lot of coordinating clauses. I say coordinating clauses, coordinating conjunctions, namely omdat, als, wanneer, voordat, indien, hoewel, tenzij, zodat, opdat, etc. Basically, if it's not a coordinating conjunction, if it's not a coordinating conjunction, it's a subordinating conjunction. And these mean because, if, when, before, in case that, however, unless, such that, again, such that. Now, some of you might have noticed that I mentioned coordinating conjunctions and because as a subordinating and coordinating conjunction. This is because, want is a coordinating conjunction and omdat is a subordinating conjunction. Now, there does exist a difference in meaning between the two, but the difference in meaning is very slight, and I don't think a lot of Dutch people usually use them. The main difference is that you can't start a sentence with want, but you can't start a sentence with omdat. Yes, so keep that in mind. If you can, just use want, because that is easier. Because you just the sentence order remains the same, because they are coordinating ones. All right. That is what I wanted to say about sentence order. I know that is a lot to take in and kind of confusing. If you don't get it at first, that's totally fine. We will get back to this a lot, hopefully, in the next lectures. The point is not that you now immediately grasp Dutch sentence structure, like, oh yeah, of course, it's so obvious. No, because it's not obvious, and that's not how learning languages works. What the goal of this is that you now kind of have seen this before, and that you're not just left in the dark, like, okay, where the hell do all the things go? You're still a bit in the dark from that, because again, it's complicated, but I hope you now know a bit more where things go in a sentence. And to practice this, there is exercise 1 in your booklet, and if you can make that would be great. And then check the slides, or check this slide that I just will put on the screen in a bit, to check if you're correct. Basically, what you have to do is to check whether the sentence is correct or incorrect, and if it's not correct, change it to the correct one. And also, if you want extra challenge or extra practice, make the homework and then watch lesson 13 to see whether you did your homework correctly. That will be a good preparation for lesson 14, when we will deal with more complicated sentences, dealing with the present tense, the present perfect, for example. And if you have more questions about this, please let me know. Just even saying like, oh, this is kind of vague, could you maybe make a summary of this? If a lot of you tell me that, then I might make a easier to digest summary. I might do that anyway, but probably not, unless you press me. So please press me if you think that's useful. All right, that's been this for this recap. Watch lecture 13 to catch up. In fact, only watch the first half, because that's a relevant half. The second half is mostly practicing that you can't really see because it's not recorded, because people are practicing on their own. And I will see you in the next lecture, lecture 14. All right.